This show is part of the RetroZap.com podcast network.
And welcome everybody to episode 70 of the Animanicast.
And that's what we call serendipity. I-D-I-T-Y.
Gosh, that was great!
Thanks. Here, have a bag of money.
Hey, I liked your song too.
Okay, sport. Here's a fat-free yogurt.
And welcome once again to the Animanicast. We are the only podcast out there dedicated to the animated series, Animaniacs. And here we explore the series episode by episode, revisiting all the cultural references and gags, and in the end, we give each episode a water tower rating. I am Joey, and joining me once again are my co-hosts, Nathan.
Yes, sirree, Baba Rooney.
I thought you were going to say one of those. And across the country in Georgia, it's Kelly.
Hi there.
Hello. Well, Kelly, you could feel free to take any of Yakko's, sayings as well. Like what's another one? Oh, I feel so free. Got any ham? That was a good one. I like personally. My eyes are burning is kind of is an interesting one, but we'll get into that a little bit later. Today we are talking about episode 70 of Animaniacs, starting its run on Kids WB, the WWWB. Yes, episode 70 includes Super Strong Warner Siblings, Nutcracker Slappy, Wakko's New Gookie, and A Quake. Now let me ask you guys this in just a few words. What would you say to somebody if they asked you about this episode? Nathan.
I would say it's a strong opening to the third season.
All right. Yeah. And Kelly, what about you?
It had a Spielberg reference.
Yeah, it had at least one. I think two. At least two I can think of off the top of my head. So, yes, it was very Spielbergian. So that
Yay.
Extra points from Kelly. Well, after today's discussion, we will have a little bit of talk once again about the upcoming Animaniacs revival / reboot / what, I don't know what they're calling it. It's a lot of things. Some people might call it some nasty things as well, but we'll get into that. Before we get into all that, let's go ahead and ask Nathan. Nathan, when did this episode first premiere?
Oh boy. So, Joey, this premiered on Saturday, September 9th, 1995, which was 301 days since the last new episode of Animaniacs. It's been almost a year. We got 2 new episodes on this day, actually. So, as tradition for the season premiere, I'm going to go over all the movies that were released in the year so far.
Okay.
Because that's what I care about. So, to name a few, there was in March we got Tommy Boy, and then April we had a Goofy Movie and While You Were Sleeping. In May,
I love that movie.
Yeah, right. In May there was Braveheart and Casper. For June we got Batman Forever, Pocahontas, Apollo 13, and Mighty Morphin Power Rangers the movie. Then in July we had Clueless and Waterworld. In August we had Babe. So there you go.
Wow, it was quite a film.
I had to cut out a bunch too.
Well, and the Casper movie, not the Casper mattress, the Casper movie, was actually written by a few folks from Animaniacs. Did you guys know that?
I knew it was executive produced by Steven Spielberg.
That's true. But it was written by Sherry Stoner and Deanna Oliver. And according, and this may or may not be true, but according to the Wikipedia page that I am looking at right now, uncredited is J.J. Abrams in the Casper movie. What?
Wow.
That's kind of weird, isn't it? I remember seeing that movie. I remember seeing a lot of those movies in the theater.
Yeah.
I remember seeing Casper in the theater, and a power went out during the movie. You remember that, Nathan?
Yep, I remember that.
Yep.
That was really fun.
That was.
I remember seeing.
Yeah.
We saw Pocahontas and While You Were Sleeping at a drive-in theater.
That's true. Yep.
Back to back.
We saw that a double feature. What a weird combo of that film that was. So yeah, so many good movies that year. Wow, and Tommy Boy, man, let's just do a whole podcast just about 1995 movies. That would be no, right? I'm kidding. We'll leave that. We'll leave all that movie stuff over to the Deuce Cast. They do all that movie stuff per year. So listen to the Deuce Cast. They'll satiate your need for movie talk. Well, anyway, let's get into the Animaniacs talk. That's why we are here. Believe it or not. But let's go ahead and get straight into our first segment called Super Strong Warner Siblings.
Right!
Super strong Warner Siblings.
Super Strong Warner Siblings was written by Paul Rugg, and it was directed by Adu Payton. And Kelly, tell us what happens here in this Super Strong Warner Siblings cartoon.
Well, it's an obvious parody of the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, which I think used to come on after Animaniacs when I would watch it in the afternoons. So I think it came on between Animaniacs and Batman, so I ended up watching it a lot of times.
Yeah, that sounds right to me too, yeah.
So I got pretty familiar with it, even though it wasn't my top show. But it's a parody of that, and the Warner siblings are being attacked by I don't know what her name is, but she's an obvious Rita Repulsa parody.
Yeah,
I guess, for lack of a better word. And she's got her secret lair and keeps sending things to attack the Warners. And she turns a little bug, looks like a little beetle, into a giant monster. And the siblings put on their costumes and obviously have superpowers now. And then they kind of like the Power Rangers when they can kind of get together and make a super monster, which wasn't that the same premise as Voltron?
Yes, very much the same as Voltron, whether it was with trucks or with tigers. I think I had both toys growing up. But anyway.
But instead of a big robot, they turn the water tower into a kind of a big monster machine itself, and that's I thought was really cool idea, and actually using the tower for something besides just having that crazy roller coaster and house inside of it. And they fight these kind of ninja looking guys. And
like nerdy foot soldiers, they kind of look like. I don't know. They have weird, thick glasses with little. They have little X-ray goggle kind of look to them too. I noticed again today. It was very weird design for those guys.
But that kind of reminded me of the foot soldiers in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and then I started thinking of Amateur Radioactive Samurai Slugs, which is from Tiny Toons.
Oh yes.
And now, back to Immature Radioactive Samurai Slugs. We're immature radioactive samurai slugs. We love to thrash criminals and slice and dice thugs.
We're totally radical, gnarly dudes. Cowabunga homeboys with nothing to lose.
Our arch enemies want to iodize, but they can't beat us cause we're merchandise. Destroy them! Count off, Picasso, Warhol, Rockwell, Grandma Moses. So kick back, tweens, it's the end of our rhyme. The show's gonna start and it's time to slime.
Yeah, all right. Hey, cowabunga.
So I always thought that was really cute. That was a parody of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but I always thought that was hilarious. And Dr. Scratch and Sniff was sort of their, I don't know.
Zordon? Was that the guy's name? I don't know.
I don't remember. I didn't watch it that much. Or, I didn't watch it with that level of familiarity. But he's sort of like the big talking head.
What's up, Otto?
Oh, there's a big bug on the lot. Hey, what's wrong with your mouth?
It's all fuzzy. Now listen here. You must destroy the bug before it destroys the Warner Brothers studio.
Right.
And I think that pretty much covers it. I mean, there's a lot of like little references and stuff. Probably some of them went over my head since I kind of halfway watched Power Rangers, so I knew enough to know kind of who the characters were and the basic premise. But
yeah, well, there were some other similarities with the show. I mean, well, first of all, let's talk about how they defeated the bug. I mean, they eventually like shrank it down, right, and then just stepped on it. And Rita, who according to the credits, I believe, is named Riva, like almost like Reba McEntire, but with a V. So Riva. Anyway, she has this line like, "Why does this never work?" or something like that, which I thought was kind of funny.
Curses again! Oh, this never works!
They don't have time to explain why this woman on the moon is trying to get the Warners. She just is. Yeah, but it was very similar to the Power Rangers too, because in the actual show, the Power Rangers were high school students. It was almost like Saved by the Bell for half of it, and then it would be them jumping around. They would go back to the old Japanese footage and show them in their costumes fighting. The foot soldiers look very similar to those gray. What were those? Were they called putties or something? Or Nathan, do you remember it all? You were younger at the time.
I just remember foot soldiers from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Okay, yeah, because they did fight these like kind of foot soldiers kind of things on Power Rangers first. It was the formula they had, right? That they parodied very well in this cartoon. They show the Warners instead of being high school students, they are lecturing people at the Math Institute or something like that.
And they're singing songs to little children,
yes.
And they're giving bags of money to different people.
Well, I love that too. It really, I mean, or fat-free yogurt. It was either bags of money or fat-free yogurt, which I just thought was so great. It really shows how this is such. Well, and I don't think we even mentioned that this cartoon starts right after the theme song.
Yeah, it starts as if the theme song ends and they're picking up as and it's a new theme song.
It's true. Oh yeah, oh my goodness, we're getting stuff out of order completely. But yes, new theme song. Instead of saying "Meet Pinky and the Brain, who went to rule the universe," they say,
Meet Ralph and Dr. Scratch and Sniff, say hi to Hello Nurse.
So that whole wisecracks by the stacks thing, I think, is gone as well. And they say,
Wakko packs away the snacks. We pay tons of income tax. We're Animaniacs.
And they actually do have a variable verse this time, which is hydroplany.
Hydroplany.
So a lot of stuff in that opening stuff. We're so used to skipping it completely.
And the reason they don't say Pinky and the Brain is because they have their own show now.
Exactly. So you can't talk, even though Pinky and the Brain are still seen both in the credits and stuff. But
they even show up in this episode later. But
yes. So anyway, a lot of stuff we mixed right there. But it starts right almost like Roger Rabbit, where they pick up in the director's studio right after singing it. So what we haven't realized is that every episode we've watched, the Warners have had to perform it every single time.
Or at least this time, because it's a new one.
That's true. It's a new season. I never thought about that. Okay, so they're not that crazy about it. So anyway.
And we're clear. Hey, great opening, you guys.
Thanks, Bill.
We couldn't do it without you.
Bill, it's people like you working behind the scenes that almost won us an Emmy. Here, have a bag of money.
Wow, you guys are the greatest.
Yeah, so it really speaks to the success, I think, of Animaniacs, that they're kind of parroting the fact that we have bags of money, and they're talking about you almost won us an Emmy, and all that kind of and also that those foot soldier guys get covered up by the Warner's the Animaniacs poster as they're plastering it up on the studio wall. So they're really referencing how successful Animaniacs had become since its first and second season, which I'll call it, season 1.1 1.5. I'll say.
It's become a lot more self-referential.
It really was.
I watched an episode. I think we're going to get to it in maybe 2 weeks. But I ended up watching that kind of out of order the other day, and I couldn't believe how self-referential it was.
Yeah.
So it does sort of seem to be a theme for this season.
Yeah. Which I kind of welcome, because it's just kind of neat to see that. There's a lot of self-referential stuff going on in this episode. And of course, we forgot one repetitive thing that they like to say a lot in this episode. And do you remember what that was, Kelly?
Right.
Right. Yes, I really liked that the repetition of saying right every time. I'm not sure if the Warners did that, or not the Warners, but the Power Rangers did that a lot in the actual show. But Paul Rugg does like that kind of writing style. I think John P. McCann as well, when they were doing episodes of Freakazoid. Do you remember this stuff, Nathan, when in episodes of Freakazoid?
Using
they would read you like over and over and over again.
Yeah, or the like cheap animation doing it that way too, which I believe they would do that in Power Rangers to save money. I'm sure they would.
Well, the whole thing, like half of it. Shot. I mean, Power Rangers must have been the easiest thing to actually film, because how much fighting did those American teenagers actually do? Like almost nothing. I think they would have one or two scenes where they would actually fight the little foot soldier guys. But whenever
where they wouldn't be in costume.
Yeah, then... exactly. They were like, oh, they're here in the school again. Fight them real quick. Okay, now they're gone.
I always assumed that Japanese programs kind of reused footage a lot anyways. Particularly with the anime, because with Sailor Moon, usually about half the episode is used from previous episodes, like their transformation sequences. And it's almost I don't want to call it filler, but it's obviously that many minutes less that they have to create new animation for the show.
Yeah, and the transformations are usually really cool looking too, because they do like a whole 3-dimensional like wrap around them and everything like that. But
it's really cool. And I don't watch a lot of the Japanese animation, so I'm not sure if they're all like that. But usually, kind of like with the Animaniacs, each new season they change it up just a little bit.
Yeah.
So usually Sailor Moon would get a new power, and so the music would change and the sequence would change. But throughout the whole season, it would almost be the same shots all the time.
Gotcha. Well, I certainly didn't watch. I mean, I was familiar enough with the Power Rangers to get definitely the references. Rita sounds almost. I mean, Tress MacNeille sounds exactly like that Rita Repulsa from the original Power Rangers, which I thought was really great.
Did y'all watch the new movie? I haven't seen it.
No, I've heard.
I heard it was not good.
I've heard mixed things. Most people say from that, but I've heard it's okay. I heard they spend a lot of the film not even as Power Rangers, and it's like, come on, guys, get into the costumes. Come on.
Wow.
I missed the goofy things. I did admire some of the goofy stuff from Power Rangers, like the thugs of Rita Repulsa that they're parodying in this one, that are all like badly dubbed, so they always say a little bit more like, what's going on with that? I would like to know, and just the weird voices, like the Scottish terrier or something, just suddenly like, oh my, let's go over here. And did you notice that green alien of Rita's looked a lot like Yoda?
Yes, of course I noticed that. I didn't know what they were trying to do there.
It's very evil Yoda, looking like it graduated from college or something. I don't know what was going on with that Professor Yoda, but
hey, that's actually a cool idea.
A monster, of course! I'm wondering what kind, however!
Perhaps this bug will do.
You can use your powers to make it become a giant bug. That's what I'm thinking anyway.
I agree with your plan! Let's do as you say!
But it was a very funny episode. Oh, and I think Nathan, do you remember their powers? There's so many different little things. We're getting this completely out of order.
Yakko was a blowfish, I believe, and Dot was a platypus, and of course Wakko was an anteater. Right? Yeah.
An anteater, yeah. And they all end it with a great PSA as well.
Hey kids, playing with giant bugs isn't cool. If someone wants you to play with a giant bug, just say, no thanks. That's cool. Right!
The whole thing is just so funny. I really, really, really liked this opening cartoon. Self-referential, great action, good animation, silly stuff. Any other moments that you guys really liked from it?
I liked the giant battle scene when they're just destroying the lot, and just like even when the building starts catching on fire, he like stomps the building out just to destroy it even more.
Yeah,
and the plots even talked about the destruction, which kind of put me in the mind of what goes on with some of the recent movies, the comic book adaptation movies, where people are like, they destroyed the whole city and no one even cares.
There you go. Animaniacs was ahead of its time. Now, to make it now a major plot thing in like the new Spider-Man movie and everything like that, you got to clean up the superhero mess. So, okay, well, very, very good opening cartoon. Let's go ahead and get straight into our next cartoon, which is Nutcracker Slappy. And Nutcracker Slappy was written by Earl Kress, and it was directed once again by Otto Payton. Nathan, tell us what happens right here in Nutcracker Slappy.
All right, so we start off with a new Skippy and Slappy song, featuring much more Skippy than the typical Slappy song, because that one didn't really mention Skippy at all. But this one puts him right up there with Skippy and Slappy, so that's pretty awesome. And then we break into Slappy waking up, and it's the Nutcracker is playing, and she's dancing, I guess. I don't know what's going on. So she wakes up, and they go to the kitchen, and they find a walnut. Maybe I'm going to go back. Okay. So Skippy lifts up Slappy while they're dancing, and Slappy falls on her. Slappy falls on him just like in Fantasia kind of thing.
Oh, yeah. And
then that's when Slappy has it. She's like, I'm done dancing around to the Nutcracker. So she breaks the dancing, stops the music, talks to the director, which is a cameo, Charleston Woodchuck, back from many episodes ago, Holly Woodchuck episode.
And of course, my father, the tuna.
That's right.
He's been working up the ranks. This Woodchuck.
He is now director, so that's pretty awesome.
What's with 6 minutes of opening a walnut?
Don't you see? It's a parable about man against nature. The nut represents the struggle to achieve our goals.
Hey! My goal is achieved.
Let me put it this way, Slappy.
It's Slappy, Baynuts.
That's Charlton. Either you do this script or you don't get paid.
He tells them that this is the idea he's going for. It's a metaphor and all that. And if you want to get paid, just do it. So they do it. They find a walnut. It's the only food they have in the house, I guess. And they just need to crack the walnut open. They try just about everything. Nothing works. They even start throwing it around the house. It hits the director in the face, and he gets knocked unconscious. It goes out the window, gets eaten by a frog. Then Slappy needs to chase the frog down. The frog spits it out eventually, and then they start trying to run it over with vehicles, tanks. They eventually get it cracked open by dropping a giant bomb from an airplane on top of it. And inside, they find that there's nothing inside. And that was the director's intention, to show that the feudalism of the world or something. I don't know. And then she's like, that's not a comedy. And then she stuffs him in the walnut. And then Skippy says, now that's comedy. There we go.
So there we are. Yes, indeed. We have our first Skippy and Slappy cartoon. A lot of musical stuff in this. So if you're not really paying attention to the visuals, you might miss out on a lot of the gags. But there were a few cultural references in it. First of all, Slappy does say to Charlton that She can't dance, don't ask him. Or she can't dance, don't ask her. And there is a song called I Won't Dance, which is just a jazz standard song. Kelly, I'm sure you noticed a quick reference from Skippy as well.
I did not really consider that a Spielberg reference.
Well, I certainly did, because
I thought it had to be a Steven Spielberg reference.
I just thought it was sort of like a generic director. I mean, I guess it put me in the mind of Steven because, he's the director. But I didn't think it was a specific homage to Steven.
I think it had to be Steven Spielberg.
Yeah.
Whenever that beard and the hat and everything, I'm like, I like
that. I think I missed the beard. I saw the hat, and it flashed by so quick. I saw the hat, and he had the little I don't know what that's called, a little eyepiece.
Yeah, that little camera lens that he could look through, basically, and see what the shot was going to look like.
So I saw the hat, so I just thought he was like. I knew he was mimicking a director, but I just saw the hat and the eyepiece. But yeah, I guess with the beard, then it would have to be Steven.
Yeah, it's got to be.
Was he wearing wasn't he wearing sunglasses?
Yeah, he was wearing kind of sunglasses-ish kind of stuff. So it was referencing Spielberg. I did think
one went by me too fast.
It's written in my contract that when I was old enough, I'd get to direct.
Yeah, Skippy has the same deal.
Love you, babe, but we're losing our light.
Yeah.
Like now Nathan Ruger is old enough and he is directing.
Exactly. I thought the same thing on the way over here, Nathan. It was so funny that Nate. So apparently Nate Ruger did have a very similar contract to Skippy in real life as well. No, but Nate Ruger, of course, is a director of some short films and stuff. And if you missed our interview, our talk with Nate Ruger and his brothers Luke and Cody. And just go back a few weeks. It's a really fun episode, and you can learn what those gentlemen have been up to all these years, and a little bit of their experience voicing characters like Skippy Squirrel. So there you go, little plug for a previous episode. This episode also has another reference of note, and that is, I believe she calls him Von Stroheim.
Hey, Von Stroheim, there's no nut inside this shell.
And he's a famous silent film director, I believe, from Germany. And Kelly, you were mentioning that sounded familiar. And who did that bring up in your brain?
Well, it doesn't take much to bring this up in my brain, but it made me think of Young Indiana Jones Chronicles, and one of the 2-hour movies that was made after the series ended on ABC because they were stupid and canceled it, was Young Indiana Jones and the Hollywood Follies. And in it, he meets Erich von Stroheim, whom I had never heard of up until that movie. And so I did what I always did after watching an Andy, and I go and looked it up, and it was probably the encyclopedia at that time because it was still internet was still kind of new. But I looked him up and read about him, and sort of an interesting character, kind of a dramatic director from all my understanding.
Yeah, all those German directors in the 1920s and 30s they made some really cool films. My favorite, probably Fritz. I think it's Fritz Lang or Long, or how to pronounce his name, but. Made Metropolis, and that's one of my favorite silent films, and maybe even just films in general, partly because it is one of the major influences on some of the look of Star Wars. So you gotta love those old that expressionism and stuff. It's good stuff from German cinema from its day. I think that was pretty much it. I mean, there's Tchaikovsky's Nutcracker Suite playing throughout all this. Our sister has been in the Nutcracker as a ballerina for many, many years, throughout the years. So we've been pretty familiar with that music. What are some of your favorite moments, guys, of this cartoon? Kelly, let's start with you.
Well, I did like the Stroheim reference because it was sort of obscure, and I was like, I know who they're talking about. So I always like when I I feel smart when they make obscure references. I also liked when Skippy and Slappy were trying to run over the nut with a myriad of vehicles, and every vehicle, when it would hit, it would kind of bounce off. And I thought that was really cool.
I think one of the vehicles was even Slappy's little old lady from Pasadena car, if I'm not mistaken. It looked very similar. Maybe it was different. I don't know. But Nathan, what about you?
I like when Slappy looks in the mirror and her reflection gets so scared of herself and runs away. It's kind of cute. And it was nice seeing Hollywood Chuck, making it in the world of Hollywood.
He really has. I'm very surprised that annoying chipmunk or woodchuck has made it so far. And I forget what name that Slappy just kept calling him the wrong name, like Bernard or something like that. And then, of course, he called her Sloppy Squirrel at some point. So I don't know. There's lots of little what little dialogue there is in this cartoon. It's good stuff, and the animation's nice. There was a really cool part where remember they go up into the plane to try to drop that walnut cluster bomb on the walnut, and their teeth are all sharp as they go up in the World War I bomber plane. I just thought that their expression looked really cool. So there's a lot of cool little parts in this little cartoon. That was nice.
Now that's comedy.
You're adorable, but that's my line.
Well, let's go ahead and get on to our next cartoon, and it is Wakko's New Gookie.
This is Michelangelo from the best episode of Animaniacs, Hooked on a Ceiling. His Eminence is coming, so you'd better listen to the Animanicast.
And Wakko's New Gookie was written by Paul Rugg. It was directed again by Otto Payton. And Kelly, can you tell us what happens here in Wakko's New Gookie?
Well, since it's a new season, Wakko wants to try out a new Gookie because I guess he's bored with the usual one. And he and Yakko are sitting on a park bench, and he's trying out several different versions of it. And finally, I guess he finds one he likes, where he's kind of sticking out his tongue and tries it out on Yakko, and he's like, nah, it's not really a Gookie. It's more like I think he says something to the effect of Mookie or Schmookie, or, it rhymed, but it wasn't a Gookie. And so Wakko wants to go and try it out on some different people. And he goes and visits Michelangelo from Hooked on a Ceiling, which I heard the music and I saw the scaffold. I'm like, it's Michelangelo. And Katharine Hepburn, and they're sitting and having tea, and Bob Hope and Larry King, and Larry King even takes some callers on his show, and Wakko tries it out, and none of them really like it. They all come up with other words that rhyme with Gookie, but don't, none of them say it is a Gookie. So Wakko decides to just keep the one that he has. Oh, and then the most important part, when Yakko tries out some of his phrases, one of them is slap my fanny, and Wakko says Steven won't like that one. So of course that is obviously a very clear reference to Steven Spielberg.
Yes.
My eyes are burning. Nope. I always wear cowboy boots.
Don't think so.
Looks like a pump, feels like a sneaker.
Oh, no.
Slap my fanny.
Well, Steven won't like that one.
Don't worry, we faded out by now.
I just saw the post this week. Highly recommend. Really good movie.
Yes, I got it. And is Ready Player One's coming out this year too, isn't it?
March.
Oh my gosh, Steven's been a very busy man lately with 2 films back to back, pretty much.
He pulled the post together in like 9 months from start to finish. I was reading something earlier. It looked like he paused post production on Ready Player One to get the post together because it was already, I think, ready to be like they were already talking about premiere date and everything else. I didn't even know he was working on that film. It came out of nowhere. It was not, something he was working on a year ago.
He's done that a few times because wasn't Schindler's List and Jurassic Park basically done around the same time, like same kind of thing?
Sort of. I don't remember which was. I think Jurassic Park was first.
Yeah.
So, he was working on post-production of Jurassic Park when he was starting to film Schindler's List, I think.
Yeah, I think that sounds right.
And I think that's sort of how he used to work. He used to do more films than he does now. There'd be a steady one every year, and now it's not quite that often unless he wants to do two like back to back, kind of the way this one was. But I know someone will correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like he was working on post production on one of the films while he was filming the other one. Yeah. And I think Jurassic Park, because the post production of Jurassic Park was obviously going to be a lot longer than Schindler's List because of the special effects.
Mm-hmm. Very busy man, especially in the early 90s. You got to think like with the movie directing, with Schindler's List and with Jurassic Park and Hook and all those different things around this. Sequest. Exactly. And also being executive producer to shows such as Tiny Toons and Animaniacs, where he's, dipping his toes into those things as well to kind of check in and see how they're going.
Earth 2 came out the year following Sequest's premiere, and that was 2 primetime shows that I know off the top of my head that he was producer of during that time period.
Oh, so a very busy man. Well, anyway, we got off
we got off track again.
Spielberg tangent.
Talking about Steven Spielberg.
Spielberg tangent alert. No. Well,
that should be a new hashtag.
Yeah, exactly. Well, there's a few references. Kelly, you mentioned Katharine Hepburn, Bob Hope. Bob Hope mentions Charlie Callis.
That face you're doing right there, that reminds me more of a Charlie Callis kind of chooky. Like that.
I believe the only thing, Nathan, that you and I might be familiar with Charlie Callis in was, once again, High Anxiety. He was the man who thought he was a dog. Who actually, you remember that the weird little
pees
scene
on someone's shoes.
Yeah, it's not the best scene in the movie, but that's Charlie Callis. He did a lot of work with Mel Brooks and Jerry Lewis and Dean Martin and stuff. So he's a guy who acted weird a lot of things. So you can see how he could do little faces from time to time. We had the other, I guess, reference I should note that we've noted before in the past is the whole thing of the Gookie itself has its origins way back with the Marx Brothers with Harpo Marx, and Harpo would make these faces in his movies, put out his duck face his lips and blow up his cheeks and cross his eyes, very similar to what Wakko does, and that is all referencing, I believe the story is, and this is like months since I read this story, but I believe Harpo was referencing somebody in their neighborhood when they grew up, and his name was Gookie, or his nickname was Gookie, and whenever that man would concentrate and work, he would make a funny face, and so Harpo would do that to his friends to make them laugh. And that eventually went into their vaudeville act, and then into the movies, and then eventually into Animaniacs. So the Gookie has a long history that we can get it back into if you want to. But we've talked about that in an early episode of the show. So feel free to watch or listen to our previous episodes to get into that. But, Katharine Hepburn, I don't think most kids know who Katharine Hepburn is these days. It seems like everybody used to do a Katharine Hepburn impression growing up.
Well, it's delightfully charming, but not actually a Gookie. Spencer used to do a face very similar to that. As I remember, he called it a Zip, zappy, zippy, or some such thing.
Nathan, what were some of your favorite moments in this cartoon?
Oh boy. Well, I kept hoping they would call it a Wookiee at one point. I don't know what case that would be, but I thought that would be a lot of fun.
They were this close. They were this close to getting it right, but whatever.
So yeah, I was reading the Spencer that Hepburn's talking about is Spencer Tracy. So
yes.
I always know of Hepburn and Tracy. I thought the animation was good. Like throughout this whole episode, the animation is strong. Larry King's face is really well done there, and just all the faces that Wakko makes.
51 days to work on it.
Yeah, 301. Yeah,
since there was a release.
Yeah,
and then even more because those were all just leftovers from season 1, I believe. So
that's right.
So they had basically 2 years to work on these episodes. So,
really
but yeah,
they look good.
Like great animation with Wakko's faces that he's making and everything. So just a lot of fun.
Yeah. We got a nice Arizona reference in there from Yuma, Arizona. Caller from Yuma, Arizona. Like,
yeah, and it sounded like Pete from Goof Troop was calling in again. Or
yeah, that Rob Paulson / the guy from Jimmy Neutron.
Jimmy Neutron, yeah, exactly.
Jimmy Neutron friend voice. I know the people at who are listening or know Carl Weezer. That was his name. There we go. Yep, I heard somebody. Okay. It worked.
Shouting works.
It worked.
Shout at the podcast.
Keep shouting at podcasts, ladies and gentlemen, especially if you're listening to us in the grocery store. Well, Kelly, what about you? Any particular moments that you just thought really stood out for you?
I liked a Spielberg reference.
There you go. Let's talk more about that. No, I'm kidding. No, I just, and other little things. I just like the Yakko talking about, you don't have to redo these things. Just keep it the old way. It doesn't have to be new. With all the talk about reboots and revamping stuff and all that, I kind of took, it would make me kind of wonder, like, how much are the people at the Warner Brothers lot right now having sort of these conversations themselves about Animaniacs.
We need a new catchphrase for Yakko.
Exactly. And you know what? I hate to say it, but they probably, especially in today's environment, do you think they're going to say the catchphrase "Hello, Nurse" in a new Animaniacs show?
That's her name.
That's true. You got to say her name if she walks into the room.
And they should say, like, Dr. Scratches. I don't know how you say it.
I guess the secret. I mean,
Ralph the Guard.
Ralph the Guard. They would have to, but they say hello to Nurse to I don't know. That's as long as they keep it equal, right? As long as both Yakko and Wakko and Dot can all say it, then it's all equal. You can all say hello,
and
Nurse.
As long as they say everyone's name, like that inflection, then it's fine.
Exactly. No. But anyway, so I just thought that was interesting. How coincidental that Yakko was trying to change. Yakko and Wakko, I should say, were both trying to change things up in the new season. So anyway, you don't have to do that. Keep it the same. Like, I don't know. Like if you say wanted to make sure that it kind of felt like the old show and really was reminiscent, then I don't know, maybe getting the original writing staff and creator might be a good idea. But that's just me. That's just a thought. It just kind of crossed my mind. But anyway, let's go ahead and get into our next cartoon, which is actually a song, and it is A Quake, A Quake.
This is Randy Rogel, and you are listening to the Animanicast.
And A Quake was written by Mr. Randy Rogel. It was directed by Al Ziegler, or Ziegler. I'm not really pronounced how to pronounce his name, so I'm just going to call him Al Z. Nathan, tell us, what happens here in A Quake, A Quake?
All right, so as you said, we have a lovely song. It's pretty educational, I believe, at least for me. It's all about the Northridge earthquake in 1994 that hit California. It was like a 6.8 earthquake, and then in that time there was also floods and riots and lots of other problems were happening in California. So they have this lovely song about that incident, and it's very catchy, and it's a very enjoyable song. And then also the animation is very well done. We have cameos from all sorts of different characters, from the hippos to Mindy and Buttons, Pinky and the Brain, Dr. Scratch and Sniff. Everyone's reacting to these earthquakes, and it's just, you just got to see it, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's all put down to the tune "The Happy Farmer," which many people would recognize from The Wizard of Oz. By the way, you did mention cameos right there. Mindy and Buttons were seen in this cartoon, and in the first one as well.
I guess technically, but
Mindy had different hair color and stuff in that one.
Yeah, and the Warners were in the Skippy and Slappy cartoon as well.
That's true. Yeah, there's little cameos. We can't mention them all, even though we just did. Okay. So
this is the city, Los Angeles, California. On a starlit winter night, when the moon was shining bright, back in January of 1994. At 4:30 in the morning, and without a single warning, something strange began to move the floor. A quake, the house begins to shake. You're bouncing across the floor and watching all your dishes break. You're sleeping, there's a quake. You're instantly awake. You're leaping out of bed and shouting,
"Oh, for heaven's sake!"
I ran outside with neighbors, their faces
Quake is, there's two different versions of this song. There's the version that is in this cartoon, and then the version I was most familiar with was on the CD or tape or whatever he had back in the day, called Yakko's World, which was a collection of it was the sequel to the original Animaniacs soundtrack, and it focused mostly on educational songs, mostly geography songs, and a lot of the songs that we'll be seeing in these upcoming episodes, actually. And I was a little surprised watching this version of it and hearing it performed live by Rob Paulsen. I'm actually more used to the CD version, which has almost no references whatsoever to California. It's just talking about earthquakes in general.
Which version did they do live?
They did the LA version. They've done whenever I've heard Rob Paulsen and Randy Rogel perform this song, it's always the LA reference. I believe the
original version.
Yeah, that's the original. Yeah. But it's interesting watching if you're ever able to go see Animaniacs live, or sometimes it's known as Animaniacs in concert, as they're going around, and they have a bunch of tour dates coming up. So check your local city area. I think go to Rob Paulsen's website. I believe he has them all listed on there. But anyway, if you go to those, you'll hear they do alternative lyrics to a lot of the songs. So I'll be singing along and I'll go, wait a minute, that's not what I'm used to hearing. So it's always interesting. But yeah, I'm used to the CD version, which has, among other things, I think a funnier ending line. The version of this says,
LA town is falling down while the ground moves around. We won't let it get us down. We're Californians.
Which speaks a lot to being a Californian, especially lately with all the fires and everything that's going around.
And mudslides.
And oh my gosh. And it's just
I was in an earthquake so far.
Yeah, it's true. You got in an earthquake?
Just in the amount of time I've been here. So
how big was that earthquake, though? It
was very small. I thought it was a big truck driving by.
Well,
I've had 2 earthquakes here in Georgia.
Wow. See, and we have some here in Arizona, but usually they're placed in somewhere in Mexico, and we just kind of feel. I don't know. Some people feel them, but there's an Air Force base in the area. So usually if I feel a rumble or something, it's like Nathan said, I just figure it must be a big truck or a jet kind of passing by or something. So
I woke up one time in the middle of the night and my entire bed was shaking. And my first thought was, I thought I was living in an apartment. I thought the person underneath me had their fan going super, super fast or something. And it was shaking the ceiling and that was shaking the bed. But then I was like, no, that can't be it. But I mean, because, when you're waking at like 2 a.m. and your bed's shaking, you don't think of the most common things. And the first thought was not earthquake, because I've never had them, but I've had that happen, and then my computer desk shook one time, and I think they were in the Gulf of Mexico, one of them, and one was in Tennessee.
Kelly, didn't you? I think you talked about that before. Didn't you say that it was ghosts? You thought it might have been ghosts?
I left that out too. So, yeah, well, that was like my second thought next to the ceiling fan. Yeah, okay. Again, I mean, who knows? You never know.
Well, if you're not used to earthquakes, I would think, yeah, it's either a neighbor or ghosts.
Please, I mean, why would I ever think that I would feel an earthquake in Georgia? I mean, it's the weirdest thing. You don't think about that at all. So yeah, some things seem a bit more practical in the wee hours of the morning.
Well, anyway, like I was saying, the alternate lyrics for this, instead of "We're Californians," are
now the town is falling down while the ground moves around. We won't let it get us down. Get beneath the doorframe.
Which I always thought was funny. It's so funny, like watching this cartoon, because I could sing the alternate lyrics like the back of my hand to this day. I love the song. It says such a cool beat to it. And when they say something different on this, I'm going, wait a minute, Dr. Scratch and Sniff doesn't talk in this song. or Wakko and Dot don't sing this line. Yakko is supposed to sing this line. So they're both great. But if you're used to one version, you're gonna, I think, prefer one over the other. I suppose this version is a little bit better because it's historically based and has a lot more of a cultural reference to the LA riots and to other stuff. I think Randy Rogel actually he has a really good story, and he tells it in their live show. But basic, and I think it's, my gosh darn, it might have been even in our recording of it as well, either in the Tucson Comic-Con panel or something. But anyway, he did talk about coming up with this song and how his house was really hit hard by that earthquake. So it definitely had an effect on his life and therefore his songs. So we got this great song out of it. Despite all the damage, at least we got a really cool Animaniacs song. Is there any other parts in this song that you guys thought were good? Any other little moments that were funny, or it's just any lines that you really liked?
Just the animation, just the detail that went into some of the quick shots that go in this, is really impressive. Just things that are happening in the background, like when the wall falls down, it doesn't fall down because of an earthquake. It's because Wakko and Dot are holding mallets and that knock down the wall that almost crushes Mindy. And there's like posters in the background of the water tower for episodes that apparently aired in the 1930s, as they talk about in the testimonials episode, I believe.
Yeah, there's some some background posters as they're going by in the water tower. So yeah, lots of little small attention to detail.
I mean, like the Mr. Director clock on the wall,
with the little hands of the clock kind of coming out of his nostrils, kind of.
Yeah,
it looks just really weird, but really great. I agree. Good energy. You can miss a lot of the references because of the quickness and the quick takes of this cartoon. Kelly, what about you? Anything else?
Nothing really stood out, but there was just a lot going on with the animation, and I immediately realized that it was a parody of from The Wizard of Oz.
Yeah. Well,
did you want to mention the day that we're recording this, Kelly?
Oh, yeah. We were recording it on January 17th, and in the episode, it says January 17th, 1994. So I thought that was an interesting bit of synchronicity, and because that was when an actual quake hit California, obviously, and thought it was kind of cool.
Coincidence? Read the book. No, it's oh yeah, and which brings me to one last reference that because of that he says this is the city, And that is kind of a reference to the old episodes of Dragnet, where they would, show the city of, I believe, usually Los Angeles, but I don't know. I never really watched old episodes of Dragnet. That was the stuff on Nick and Night that you would actually, say, well, I'm going to turn this off. This is not the funny stuff. Anyway. Well, let's go ahead and get to our Water Tower rating. So what do you guys think? Out of 5 water towers, how many water towers would you give today's episode? Kelly, let's start with you.
I think I'll give it 4. I had a lot going on, and it was all pretty good. There was a Spielberg reference, at least one. 2, according to y'all. So, always bumps up the score. Had a really good song, and a lot of parodying and self-referencing going on. So 4.
All right, and I was going to say, and Kelly again, and Nathan, what about you?
Oh boy, I almost want to give it 5, but I'm going to give it 4.5. I think because of the Skippy and Slappy cartoon, it was a little less interesting, I think. But it's a really great episode, so I really enjoyed it.
All right, and I'm going to go. I think the second time I watched it, I liked it a little bit less, and maybe because of the Skippy and Slappy cartoon, but I'm still going to go ahead and give it a 5. I think this is it has a lot of just fantastic stuff in it, and just a really good episode all around. Really, really enjoyed it. So 5 water towers for me. Well, let's go ahead and get on over to our poll results from last week. So last week we asked which of these cartoons is the best Goodfeathers cartoon, and this is our round 3. So we had 4 different choices. Coming in at the bottom was Dodo Boys with 10%. Coming up next was We're No Pigeons with 17%. Hiccup was 23%. But the winner of this one was Pigeon on the Roof, which got 50% of the vote. So what do you guys think? Nathan, Kelly, which of those 4 Goodfeathers cartoons is the best in your mind? Nathan, what do you think?
I voted for Hiccup because I thought it was fun. Lots of little different ways to get rid of hiccups, I guess. Kind of a scary looking Godfather, the God Pigeon.
God Pigeon? Yeah. Yeah. We've had some, while it did not win, we did have some write-ins who not only told us that Hiccup is the best of those 4, but it's one of their best Goodfeathers, one of their favorite Goodfeathers cartoons. So Hiccup does have quite a bit of a fan base. Kelly, do you have of those 4, which of those do you think is the best?
I think I liked Hiccup best too. I thought it was really funny and all the different ways they were trying to get rid of the hiccups.
Okay. I'm gonna go with Pigeon on the Roof. I'm gonna go with the winner. I almost went with Dodo Boys just because I like the World War I aspect of that cartoon. Mm-hmm. And I just thought that was kind of a cool cartoon. But I'm gonna go with Pigeon on the Roof, just because the songs. It was not a Goodfeathers one that I think plot wise you can get a little bit lost just because of the editing of that one, but the songs are great. The references to Fiddler on the Roof are, I think, what really saved that one for me at least. So there we go. Well, Nathan, what poll do we have for this week?
Oh boy! Oh, I just want to say I saw Goodfellas finally this week.
Oh, you did?
So, yeah. So I mean, it's going to be a while before we get another Goodfeather cartoon. So I just wanted to say no, I saw it. And yeah, okay. So this week we have a new poll. It's kind of a repeat, actually. It's best songs, round 2, I believe we're at. And we've had quite a few songs since the last time we've done one of these. So for at random, basically, we have Video Review, Schnitzelbank, I'm Mad, and today's episode, A Quake, A Quake. So Video Review, they went over to different VHSs and sang about different movies. Schnitzelbank, they did the friendship song, and then I'm Mad was the one where they went to the circus and a Quaker cake. We already talked about that one today.
I'm going to have to determine which spelling of review I'm going to use for the for that, because there's alternate spellings of it, like review, like REVIEW, and REVUE, which is on the soundtrack, which I always thought made more sense because it had more of a double meaning. But I believe in the cartoon card it says review. Like
I thought it was VUE.
That's what I thought too.
Well,
I don't think so. I don't think it is.
That's what I have in my notes.
You know why I don't think it is? Because somebody online called me on it, and I had to go. What? Let me check. And it turns out I think the video card does have. I don't know. That one's a weird one. So anyway, one way or the other, you guys will know what I'm talking about. You vote for that one. No matter what it's spelled. Yeah, there's two alternate spellings of it. Don't get mad at me. But you can make your voice heard on those polls by simply going to twitter.com/Animanicast. You could find that poll there, or you can simply look on Twitter for hashtag Animanicast poll, and you can make your voice heard over there.
Hey, you guys, it's Rob Paulson here. I am so thrilled that we have the Animanicast to continue to find a way to help me to get a frickin' job. Thank you for listening. Bye.
Well, speaking of making your voice heard, I think we'd take a few moments here to talk a little bit about what's going on with the reboot / revival / whatever. So far, even though it's been suspected and hinted at that the original voices are coming back, so Rob Paulson, Maurice LaMarche, Jess Harnell, Tress MacNeille, and even many of the old writers have even said that they've heard they're coming back. There has been no official announcement from Rob Paulson and the rest of the cast. I think that's partly because non-disclosure agreements. I don't think they really are allowed to say anything if they want to keep their job. They have to keep pretty quiet about that. So I think, what do you guys think? Do you think it's pretty safe to say that we're going to be seeing the original cast back, or do you think they might go with somebody else?
I think you'll get the Warner brothers and sister and Maurice LaMarche. I think all those characters will be back, but beyond that, I'm not sure. Yeah. But just based on people's at least their Twitter talkings, it seems like Maurice LaMarche definitely knew something about it beforehand. And, at least that's how I interpreted it.
Yeah, they definitely did seem excited. about it coming back.
They're not complaining about not being it. They're not saying like, "Hey, they should really have the original voice actors back." They haven't said anything like that. So
yeah,
I think that's a good thing.
The only actors from the series that I think have not been contacted of late, of course, folks like John Mariano, who voiced Bobby, and Sherry Stoner, who voiced Slappy, have, as far as I know, Nathan Ruger, of course, have not been contacted for
Colin Wells.
Oh yeah, get Colin on the phone, folks. Come on, get that man over there. He's helping out the veterans, but he has to. Let's get this man. Let's find out what Randy Beeman's been doing since he came back from Afghanistan.
Right. Get some very PTSD stories of Randy Beeman.
Yeah, exactly. One day, that's right. Colin was saying that one day Randy Beeman saved my life in Afghanistan. That's what Colin's new stories were going to be all about. It's going to be some dark stories. Oh boy. Anyway, so if I were to bet, it kind of think that those voice actors are coming back. But again, as of now, the writing staff: Tom Ruger, Sherry Stoner, Deanna Oliver, original John P. McCann. And of course, the original directors and so on have not been asked back. So it looks like Tom Ruger's team may or may not be back. This is, I think, still relatively early in the process. So it's anything could change. So Kelly, I'm really kind of going off of what you said before. With Steven Spielberg being involved in executive producing this Animaniacs revival, that one would hope that he would want to work with the people he knows have done quality work before.
Right.
Yeah. But there are some things that fans are doing to voice their opinions about this. There is the Animaniacs change.org petition that is going around. If you can check that out, it is endorsed by Nathan Ruger and several of the former writers and directors of the series. It's you can find it by going, searching for hashtag Write Animaniacs Right. That's WRITE Animaniacs RIGHT. And if you search for that hashtag, right. Right, Animaniacs, right. So anyway, if you search for that hashtag, you should be able to find that change.org petition. And here's my concern with change.org petitions. I think they're great. I for voicing people's opinions and fans' opinions, but off the top of my head, maybe you guys can, you know, if sometime this has actually made a difference, but have these online petitions ever really made a huge difference in TV shows? I think they have, but I can't think of a case. Can either of you think of a time where a fan petition really changed the opinions or, did anything to get things done in a certain way?
I mean, nothing comes to mind, but I would feel like if they see a large number, it wouldn't hurt. If they're on the edge of, should we or should we not? It's just one extra thing that they can point to and be like, oh, like there's a lot of people that would appreciate that we did this. So,
yeah.
But
Kelly, what about you? Can you think of anything off the top of your head? I know that I think Buffy might have been brought back. I don't know. It seems like every now and then they have some sort of
Buffy changed networks.
Okay.
I think it's hard to say sometimes how much fan involvement has in bringing back a show. You know what? I do think it was probably responsible for Timeless coming back.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, I don't know if any of you
Yeah,
watched
that's right. Yeah, Timeless. I watched the first couple episodes of that, and they were able to bring that back at least for a finale, right, to kind of wrap things up. So
I think it's a short season, and it won't be until maybe later this year. But
and I think and then sometimes I don't know. So I guess it's not. I guess what the point is I'm trying to make is it's not necessarily futile, right? I mean, as of the release, right now, it says as of this recording, the petition actually has just a little under 3,600 signatures, which it's very impressive. And hopefully by the time this episode is actually released, who knows? It might have passed like 5,000 signatures or something like that. So it's definitely worth going to our show notes and signing the petition if you have not done so already.
Especially for the amount of effort it takes to do it. It's definitely worth the time.
Yeah, it takes very little effort to sign the petition. But one thing I would suggest doing, again, I talked about this last episode and in our previous episodes when we talked about petitions and stuff about the Animaniacs, is sending a professional and positive business letter to the executives over at Warner Brothers is definitely, I think, a better use of your time. They stand out a lot more, especially if you're writing them. If you're not ranting, if you keep it to one page. And in our show notes, I'll make sure to put like a format that you can use for writing a letter. But that is, in my opinion, if enough people wrote nice, positive, professional letters, I think that would make a little bit more of a difference than any online thing.
If I were to write a letter to Steven Spielberg, I should probably keep it to one page.
Yeah, you should try as much as possible.
Yeah, see, that's why I haven't. Surprisingly,
we can't send them gifts and things, and like he doesn't want souvenirs and things.
No, we can't bribe him. I don't think he can be bribed. Well, speaking of Mr. Spielberg, where you can attempt to write him a one-page letter, His address is his business office, I should say. We don't have his home address, so I'm sorry, Kelly. You can't go knocking on his door yet.
I would not do that.
Okay.
I
There's good security. You wouldn't do that.
Huh?
I said there's good security there. You wouldn't be able to do that.
No,
I
wouldn't do anything to disrespect him or bug him. Like, even if I saw him out and about, it would really be difficult for me to even just go up and speak to him, because I wouldn't want to bother him.
Yeah,
so.
I know the feeling.
But I'd also not want to miss the opportunity to say hello to Steven Spielberg. So it'd be like the little angel on one shoulder and the little devil on the other. Like, do I speak to him? Do I risk embarrassing myself and saying something stupid, or I don't know. It would be difficult.
Well, for those who are interested in writing Mr. Spielberg a business letter, here again is the address for that. It is 100 Universal City Plaza, Building 5121. That's 5121. Universal City, California, 91608. So you can write Steven Spielberg, tell him why you love the Animaniacs, and if you so want to, if you're so interested, you can say, and this is why I think Tom Ruegger and his writing crew should at least be able to, pitch an idea of what Animaniacs could look like today. I think it's important to note that you say like that they are at least able to pitch it, not that it's like it's them or nothing, even Nathan Ruegger
Just
online.
give him a chance.
Give him a chance. Come on. Yeah. Well, it is kind of funny. The more, especially, talking with Tom and learning more about the process of how these characters came to be, I really feel like Tom is almost like Walt Disney to Mickey Mouse. Tom is to the Animaniacs as Walt Disney was to Mickey Mouse. And yes, Walt Disney, of course, didn't make Mickey Mouse himself. I mean, he had Ub Iwerks and other people there to help flesh out that character. But it really seems kind of silly that if these people are all available and they're out there willing and ready to go to work and to make this a great production, and they've done it in the past, then heck, why not hear what they have to say and see if they want to go in that direction, right? I don't know. Makes sense to me. But you can write Mr. Spielberg, and I'm working on getting an address for some of the folks over at the Warner Brothers studio as well. They're a little more secretive. You can, the Mr. Spielberg's address is right there on the Amblin website. So it's like you can go ahead and send him something, but sending something to the executives at Warner Brothers, it's a little trickier to figure that out. So I'm going to do some investigation, and who knows, if I can figure it out, then I will put it in our show notes as well. Well, when it comes to the Animaniacs reboot, we did ask the audience out there for some thoughts on what they thought about the upcoming reboot. Are they excited? Are they anxious? And again, if you can send in your thoughts to animanicast@retrozap.com. Jennifer here said on Twitter that this is Jennifer Mesquite TX, and she said, I'm going to be sad if none of the original cast and crew are involved. And over on our email, William wrote to us, and William says, hello guys, I'm too divided on whether or not the show should be rebooted. On one hand, it would be great to see some of the characters again and see how they would react to the present day. On the other hand, seeing how the creator, voice actors, and writers haven't been called worries me, because those were the factors that made the show work, and certain reboots like Powerpuff Girls failing without the creator. I'm still holding hope, because I hope the reboot acknowledges what worked, like the Warners, the Squirrels, and Pinky and the Brain, and what didn't work, like the Goodfeathers, Mindy and Buttons, Katie Kaboom, or at least fix them. I hope Mr. Spielberg knows what he's doing with the revival, because I know he works with the same actors who fits his vision. That's from William. So thanks for writing in, William. And that's the thing. He does work with a lot of the same creative people that he likes to work with in the past. The only question is, how much is Mr. Spielberg really having in the input of this? There's part of me that wonders, does Steven even know like how much of a say is he having right now in this revival, other than, sure, that sounds like a great idea, bring it back? Or is he saying, does he have the time or interest as much as he did in the past to say,
I believe that if he did not, his name wouldn't be on it.
That's a good point.
And that doesn't mean he's involved in every single day-to-day decision. But it's like the interview that I had with Rob Paulson at DragonCon. He said that the reboot news wouldn't be even getting out without some sort of retraction if there weren't some truth to it, because anything that goes out with Spielberg's name has to be accurate.
Yeah.
And Warner Brothers and Amblin and nobody was coming out saying none of this is true, it's a false rumor, fake news, what have you. So I think he's certainly involved and certainly aware that he's putting his name on it. But it's like Tom Ruger had told us, there'd be meetings and things would come up the chain and be there for final approval. But that doesn't mean he's there down in the trenches and making every single little decision, but things filter up to him, is what I gathered from Tom Ruger.
Yeah. Yeah. What did Tom say at one point? That he said one of their main jobs was just to make sure Steven was happy. So Steven is definitely involved, but I think a lot of people, it's kind of dismaying on Twitter. They say, well, as long as Steven Spielberg's involved, then that's all that really matters. It's like, well, that is definitely a huge factor.
It's very important.
But it's not, to me, it's not, to me, it's like the biggest factor is get the people who actually wrote it. I mean, that to me is more important, especially if you want to continue what was done in the past, then get what worked in the past. If you want to completely redo it completely, then you would get brand new writers. Like Looney Tunes has been rebooted so many different ways, and some more successfully than others, and with different kind of voices to it each time. So, but I don't know. It's just kind of I think either way, Warner Brothers really needs to come forward and say what their vision is going forward for Animaniacs, based upon that graphic that they put out. If the graphic says anything with the traditional kind of hand-drawn Yakko, Wakko, and Dot and Pinky and the Brain, it seems like they're going for the traditional kind of style and feel. So one of the best ways to do that, at least in my opinion, is probably to go with the original creators that are able and willing to work on it, which there are many, many that are able and willing to work on it. So anyway, let us know what you think. Once again, you can email us at animanicast@retrozap.com. Don't forget that online petition. And of course, you can write those letters to Mr. Spielberg. Just please, please, please make sure they're professional. Make sure they're positive. No online YouTube rants or anything like that where you talk about how you hate the show now and it's going to be stupid unless it's this or that. Don't talk like that. Come on.
Don't give them ideas, Joey.
Yeah. I will even go this far. If you have a letter that you want to send to Mr. Spielberg or whomever, and you are not sure if it's good or you want a proofreader, I personally will proofread your letter and I will give you feedback. And that is me as a teacher speaking to the audience.
Will you read mine too?
I will read yours too, Kelly. You can email your letter to us over at animanicast@retrozap.com, and I'll make little suggestions here or there, but if you really want my 2 cents in on it. But there you go. So let's go ahead and that's our news for today, but let's go ahead and get over.
Can I say something about
please
Hulu?
do. Oh, yes.
For anyone
Nathan.
that's confused after listening to this whole episode and they watched it on Hulu and they're like, that was the wrong episode. It's because Hulu has them out of order. So if you've gotten this far and you hadn't figured that out yet, episode 3 on season 3, this should be episode 1 of season 3.
That's true.
And then also season 2 is not like 20 episodes like Hulu says it is, so they're wrong. Okay, I don't know. There may be other problems too. That was just what I noticed. Just wanted to point that out. Thank you.
Yeah, it seems like Netflix did it based upon kind of the DVD releases, how they called them volumes, and now with a new distributor, they're kind of deciding, well, let's just put them out like this, and how to group them so that people can binge them in a way that we think is appropriate, I suppose. I don't know exactly how.
Basically, they added up season 1 and 2, so they put 30, 4 and 35 or something to equal the 69 episodes, and there we go.
It's a whole other thing. Well, anyway, let's go ahead and get to some contact information. Nathan, where can people get in contact with you?
So if you go onto Twitter, I am at DjangoFT. That is me. Thank you.
Okay, right. And Kelly, what about you?
You can find me on Twitter at Yoda Princess, YODAPRNCSS, or email me, Kelly, at BigShinyRobot.com.
All right. And as for the Animanicast, we, of course, are on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram, on YouTube. We continue to upload a bunch of our older episodes up on YouTube as well, so you can check those older episodes out. And you can also email us, which is animanicast@retrozap.com. And speaking of retrozap.com, hey, you should head over there. You know why? Because it's awesome. They have new articles. They have new podcasts every single day over there. Podcasts such as the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Case Files, the Ardcast, Beltway Banthas, Brews and Blasters, Classic Marvel Star Wars Comics, the Deucecast Movie Show, Dork Lair, Dunecast, Green Justice, and Arrow Podcast, Kanata's Castle, the Sandcrawler Podcast, Scarlet Velocity, a Flash Podcast, Skywalking Through Neverland, Starships, Sabers and Scoundrels, Talking Apes TV, Techno Retro Dads, Terrigan Dreams, The Trade Federation, Warp Trails, and We Know Nothing. There's so many different podcasts over there. Check them all out and just binge podcasts all day at RetroZap. That's a great way to spend your time. So, with all of that, it's time to wrap things up. So, for Nathan and Kelly, this is Joey saying good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
This podcast is not endorsed by Warner Brothers or Amblin Entertainment and is intended for entertainment and information purposes only. Animaniacs, the Warner Brothers logo, all names, pictures, and sounds of the Animaniacs characters or any other Animaniacs-related items are registered trademarks and or copyrights of Warner Brothers, Amblin Entertainment, or their respective trademark and copyright holders. All original content of this podcast is the intellectual property of the Animanicast unless otherwise indicated.
Right!